This tutorial is on iPad navigation, Ocular exam room. This tutorial will show you how to navigate the Ocular exam room. At the top of the Ocular exam room, you'll see the same icons that we had on the visit overview. The More icon from within the Ocular exam can also be rearranged. Again, you'll touch and hold the icons until they jiggle, and then you'll drag and drop them to their desired locations, and you can select the X to hide any icon that you do not wish to see. If you hide an icon, go into Restore Hidden Buttons and select the icon that you wish to bring back. When finished, just touch anywhere outside of the More menu to save those changes. If we touch Show Complaints here, this is actually going to show any chief complaints that were documented for this patient, and then you can hide complaints. To the left we have tabs. Touch the tab to open the drawer. To the right we have buttons. The bottom right has several diagrams that are completely relying on the diagnosis that you select, with the exception of the glyph tools. You'll be able to change the diagram to draw on. At the bottom, we have a quick impression edit. This is where you can view anything you've documented in the exam room. It's extremely important that you use the Save Visit Note option when you're leaving the exam room in order to save your work. If you do not save your visit note, you can risk losing your work. The Exam tab has Perform Exam, Data Reviewed, and View Import Previous. When selecting Perform Exam, this takes you to an exam set list. The eye exam is the one that you'll be using with most of your exams. It's not recommended to use the other exam sets here on the left, as those will eventually be going away. So I'm going to select the eye exam, and the first tab that we enter is the External tab. There are several tabs down the left-hand column. Each one of these sections has documentation denoted with an asterisk and a checkbox. This is contributing toward your billing points. Each of these sections also default normal statements for both eyes. If we look at the conjunctiva and the cornea and the anterior chamber and iris, the lens, the discs, and the fundus, we see that all of these have normal statements. Defer would be used to document a reason for the patient declining dilation. If you're billing for gonioscopy, you will want to go to the Gonio tab, and you'll want to make sure that you turn the gonioscopy piece on. The billing will come from the diagnosis you document, but in order for it to bill, you must check this box. The Miscellaneous tab will default normal statements with asterisks for billing, and this is for disposition, orientation of your patient. At the very top, the filters, when selected, will give you the ability to turn off certain areas of the exam set. If you're only examining one eye, you can turn off the filter for the other eye that you're not examining. If you're not dilating the patient today, you can turn the dilation to off. And the same applies for fundus, discs, and slit lamp. If you are doing a dilated exam, using this exam set automatically defaults to dilated for you. CD ratios do need to be documented here in the eye exam. That's done in the Discs tab. This is the only place in Eyefinity EHR to document CD ratios. Once I document the CD ratios for the right eye, I can select the Copy to Left. At the bottom of the Disc tab, you can document which lens you used, and this is a sticky field. This will adapt to the logged in user and default for each and every patient for that logged in user. When you're finished, select Done. If we go back to the Exam tab, we now see that there is a blue check mark and it says that we use the eye exam set. If we go down here to the quick impression edit, and we go to the exam details section, here we're going to see all the normal statements for all of the sections. Notice in the red bold that the CD ratios are showing because we documented this information in the exam area. It highlights it in red bold to show us the changes. The next tab is the Diagnoses tab. Each doctor will have their own list of diagnoses. Once you start documenting here in the ocular exam, you'll have your top 10 list of commonly documented diagnoses. Initially, this won't be your list, but as you begin using the system, this list will adapt to you. If you are looking for something specific and you're unable to find it, you can use the magnifying glass. You can search by name, part of the name, and even ICD-9. So here I could search for myopia. I could search nevus, or I could search corneal nevus. And there's also a complete diagnosis search. So if you begin searching and you're not able to find whatever it is you're searching for, you can select this complete diagnosis search and search an additional list. Let's go ahead and select type 2 diabetes. And the next thing that opens is our Plans tab. So once a diagnosis is selected, the Plans tab will open with a specific list according to that diagnosis that was selected. You'll also have the ability to create a popular plan list. This list will remember your top plans that you use with each diagnosis. You'll also have the ability to search your plans for a certain plan. The search will search your popular plan list and the plan list for each diagnosis. The complete search will search all plans within the system. So if you're looking for a diagnostic test that isn't listed on the plan list of this diagnosis, you can actually search all the plans within the database and pick that plan here. The next tab is the follow-up tab, and you're never going to use this tab. You're actually going to be documenting your follow-ups under the follow-up plan within the diagnosis. The progress note is a quick way to review the summary of everything you've done for your visit. Here we'll have a nice summary of everything documented. We'll be able to see the clipboard details. We'll be able to see chief complaint if it were documented. We'll be able to see the exam details here and any impressions and plans that were documented. To close the progress note, simply touch the Progress Note tab to close that drawer. In the upper right-hand corner, above the glyph tools, you will see the ICD-10 Expert. This icon will appear for specific diagnoses selected and it'll be highlighted. When it's highlighted, that means that the diagnosis you've selected needs additional documentation for ICD-10. This is going to be used to define the stage of that diagnosis. The glyph tools, the draw, and the camera are all going to be covered in a different tutorial. You'll use the findings to document your findings for the diagnosis. Once you select a finding and you document its location, meaning which eye or eyes, this information will backfill to the eye exam area and remove the normal statements and replace it with your findings. DDX is used to document a differential diagnosis. Associated diagnosis will also highlight if a diagnosis is selected that may need additional documentation for ICD-10. This is not required, however, you can select and pick additional items. So for example, if you had a patient with type 2 diabetes and you selected the associated diagnosis, you would be able to document that your patient is using insulin. This button will give you options, but again, it isn't required. Status and new diagnosis will give classifications of the diagnosis. Is it a brand new diagnosis, or are we documenting an existing diagnosis for a patient? If it is an existing diagnosis, is it stable? Is it worsening? Is it maybe an existing diagnosis and a new problem has arisen? It's recommended that you use status or new with each diagnosis you document. These are not required, however, they are going to contribute to your billing. The quick impression edit at the bottom will list everything you've documented in the ocular exam. The impressions will list all diagnoses and plans documented and allow you to edit if needed. Exam details will show all the exam details along with the normal statements. The CCHPI will document any chief complaint if entered into the visit. Also allows you to add any additional notes. At the bottom right corner is a Save Visit Note button, and this is something you should always select before leaving the ocular exam room. You do not ever want to leave without saving because you're then at risk of losing the data that you've entered. If you do try to leave the ocular exam room, you will receive a warning that your data is not saved, and you will have an option at that time to save. Thank you for listening. We hope you found this tutorial useful. Please visit our support community to view additional tutorials.